This is, or was, how many of us started our relationships with motorcycles. At 16 years old, a little 50cc ring-a-ding for me meant freedom and independence. A DT50 MX, exactly like this one, was my first road bike, but this is pretty much the pinnacle of a two-stroke racing motorcycle. It's a Suzuki RGV500, famously raced by the legend that is Kevin Schwantz. Two strokes were finished and done in 2002. Everybody thought they were going to die. The world went four-stroke until one small company from up in Wigan created this, the Langen 250cc V-twin two-stroke. Now, I'm lucky enough to get to ride this bike today. There's only a handful of people that have ridden it. I love a two-stroke. This is the Late Break Show. I'm Shakey Byrne. This is a Byrne Out episode, proudly supported by EBC Brakes. Suzuki RGV500, there you have it. I hope that little soundbite there excited you as much as it did me. I've never been so excited just to start a motorcycle. Starts at 0 degrees, obviously. Had to get to 70 degrees before you could even rev the thing, but once it was at 70, then a few blips at the end, the thing sounds amazing. It's made my day, to be honest, and I haven't even got to ride the Langen yet. I'm looking forward to that as well. And this is Mr. Chris Ratcliffe, who built it. This is his baby. Chris.
All right.
Talk to me about this bike.
Yeah, this is the two-stroke 250. At Langen, we are a small team of engineers, riders, technicians, and we spent the last 3 years or so developing, designing and building this. Most people through COVID got a puppy, but we made this.
I was going to say, some people learnt a language, or some people learnt a new skill. You've built a motorbike. I mean,
motorbike, yeah.
What was the inspiration? What made you think to yourself, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a 95 horsepower V-twin two-stroke engine, of which there's probably been no new ones built for 15 years or something, and turn it into a road-going motorcycle. How did that come about?
Well, we got a sort of sniff that it could be done because of the injection, the fuel injection and the oil injection, which is mapped. So we thought, well, what if we can use this to map the emissions in the right places to pass emissions tests? So we thought, well, if there's a chance, then let's try to do it. I mean, there's not been a two-stroke, like you mentioned before. There's not been a two-stroke on the road for 20 years, 18, 20 years. So we thought we'd see if we can give it a go and see if we can do it. You know, we're all about power to weight at Langen. We love lightweight bikes. That's why there's carbon fibre and aluminium, and there's nothing better than a two-stroke for power to weight.
Our viewers obviously are going to get all the stats of this bike, but just so you know, when he talks about power to weight, this bike's 76 horsepower, you said to me, didn't you? And 120 kilos. Now, that is pretty special. Riding the thing, it's like an electric mountain bike with an engine in it. It's just it's pretty phenomenal. What's the thinking in the design? What made you go down the kind of cafe racer look? Why not like a, I don't know, like a sport bike or a off-road competition type bike? What inspired this design?
Yeah, I think it goes back to really the this bike's a 250cc. It's 76 horsepower, it's very light, so it's about having as much fun as you can on real roads, you know, up to 100, 110, 120 mile an hour, but actually all the fun you can have on real roads is below that. So we thought, well, you know, the lighter the bike, the more torque we can have low down. So we're kind of going back to the days of the ton-up clubs where, you know, it's all about stripping the bike of absolutely everything. So, you know, it's a trellis chassis, you can see every piece of engineering, all the machine crankcases. you know, anything that doesn't need to be on the bike isn't here, so we've no that's why we've no fairing. You know, it's just extra weight. So yeah, and then it just led its way to this. You know, there's a few different cues from old bikes that we like, kind of Vincent twin shock, but we've worked with K-Tech to work on some valving, so this setup works. You know, so we're taking sort of old themes and bringing them up to date.
I'm right in saying, obviously, this is going to be one of 100.
That's right.
However, this is the prototype bike. This is the bike you've done all of your development work on. This is the bike that's kind of evolved into the bike that I believe you start building in August. The first customer bikes are built in August.
That's right, yeah.
This one's actually, you can't see this yet, but this is actually number 101 of 100, just because this is the bike that will, you know, forever be in the Langen factory. What an exclusive thing, 100 bikes. I mean, surely at some point, you know, many years in the future, that's got to make these things quite valuable, isn't it?
They'll be scarce. There's a lot of our owners, a lot of our new owners, unfortunately, aren't going to ride them, the collectors and investors, but you know, the people we love are the enthusiasts, the people that come to the factory that shows the collection of 22-stroke bikes, and they're the people that are going to absolutely thrash it, and that's why we've made the bikes. So. Yeah.
Are you going to have like a Langen championship then? You're going to see who can get the most mileage out of one and see who can get the fastest lap times out of tracks and stuff. Langen track days, I can see it now.
I think we should, yeah. If you get involved, yeah.
I'm feeling quite privileged, to be honest. This is, or I am, should I say, only the 5th person in the world to actually get to ride this bike. This bike is number 101. Now there's a reason for that. And the reason is that basically Langen, on August the 1st, are going to start producing the first 70 odd of these bikes. I think they said they've made already. This one will always be their development bike, although it is built exactly to the specification of like a finished bike. This bike's been work in progress for the last kind of 2 or 3 years. They've been doing all sorts of bits and pieces, working on the fuel injection and trying to get this engine as usable as possible for a road bike. Now, one of the super cool things about this bike, and one of the super cool stats, is that the engine in this bike is the only thing that comes from outside of the UK, because the engine comes from Italy, direct for somebody who used to work in the Ferrari factory. And said person built a 2-stroke V-twin motor that he wanted to put in a prototype type race bike. And in its original guise, that engine made 95 horsepower. 95 horsepower from a little 2-stroke 250cc V-twin motor. That's quite impressive. But what the guys at Langen have done is they've taken that motor and they've detuned it a little bit to make it nice and usable, you know, to make it torquey, to make it something that you can use on the road and enjoy. Currently, the bike's running about 76 horsepower. Now, for a bike with just 120 kilos of weight, wet, that is quite a significant amount of power. The first thing I can tell you, having only ridden about a mile, if that, is that the motor and the fuel injection has been incredibly well mapped. I can't believe how much torque there is from a little 250. And I say little 250, but yeah, that's basically what it is, a little 250. Speaking with Chris Langen, he says that the power on this bike comes in at about 8,500 RPM. And it'll rev on all the way to about 12 or 13 maybe. I don't know if you can see on the dial down there, but all of the numbers in white are where the thing's kind of happy just pottering around. Get it into the green and she's ready to go, and then obviously right the way around to the red that starts at 13,000 RPM. That's where she's in her sweet spot. But they actually have what they call an old school 2-stroke map for it. So at the moment, this bike's remarkably torquey, and really smooth and nice and easy to ride. Even like now, 5,000 RPM, just pottering along, 6th gear. The thing's as happy as Larry. Suspension wise, it was really comfortable. I was riding the bumps nicely. It's not the smoothest of roads, and I think you'd agree my voice isn't shaky, for want of a better word. Yeah, the delivery is just nice, just really refined. A little bit of engine braking on the overrun, which is nice. Goes nice and quiet. The biggest thing for me, when you think two-stroke, and let me tell you now, I am a massive two-stroke fan. I mean, you will have seen earlier on just how excited I got just starting up Kevin Schwantz's 500. I mean, personally, I think if that doesn't excite you, there's something wrong with you anyway. But yeah, two-strokes, I love them. I've got a few, just recently sold one actually, an RS250 Aprilia. But the thing that strikes me about it the most is the induction noise. You know, when you think two-stroke, you think ring, ding, 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 ding. You know, all of that kind of buzzy two-stroke noise and what have you. But the overriding thing on this at the moment, because I haven't even revved the thing out yet, is just how much induction noise there is. There's like fuel injection and ram air on the front, and the ram air sounds so cool. It sounds like you've got a carburetor on the back of an engine with no airbox whatsoever. That's obviously not the case because this thing's fuel injected, but yeah, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. So I want to find a little bit of road in a second where we can rev the thing out and see how she feels. But I think the one thing that really surprised me about the bike, seeing it stationary for the first time, or seeing it in the person for the first time, yeah, the thing that really surprised me is the overall proportion of the bike. It doesn't feel like a little 250. It feels really comfortable, really roomy. You know, my legs are nice and chilled out. The riding position's really relaxed. Feels very purposeful, just pottering along like this. And I'm looking forward actually to finding a couple of corners and seeing how the thing feels when I do get going a little bit. But
I mean, there's so much detail in it, and everywhere you look there's something pretty special on this bike, and that's what impressed me. I've seen the photographs. I must admit I watched some other videos on it last night before I came to ride it today, because I wanted to get a feel for what I was going to be getting myself into. But in the flesh, it's just stunning, isn't it? And the interesting thing for me is that whilst it's a 250, which some people consider a little bike, ergonomically there's loads of room on it. It doesn't feel like a small bike, and the way you've made the motor work also doesn't feel like a 250. It feels quite torquey, so it feels like a sort of cross between a 400 and a 600 at the bottom, with a little bit of a rush of sort of two-stroke power at the top, which I think is quite phenomenal.
So I wanted to make something that's actually usable. The engine is usable, it's tractable in the mid-range, lots of torque everywhere, like you're saying, comfortable. Now all the ergonomics are adjustable, so these handlebars, for instance, they rotate in about 3 different axes. It's impossible not to get comfortable, and we sort of tailor fit the bike to each person as well, so we'll put completely different suspension on if we need to, different springs, different damping and things like that, so it rides perfect.
One thing that really stood out for me was the induction noise. Actually, when you're poodling around and you're riding this bike not like a 250 should be ridden, just cruising about, you hear nothing but induction noise. But then when you want to play, all you hear is the exhaust, and it goes back to being a two-stroke. It's like it comes alive, you know. So it's a very clever bike.
Thank you.
God blimey, the brakes are sharp. Loads of feel, but they're really sharp. The bike's got a Hell caliper. It's got Hell master cylinder. You know, Hell used some stuff in the BSB as well. So yeah, proper brakes. Right, let's have a go. That was a bit more like it, wasn't it? 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, and yes, you can hear lots of induction noise, but just dead tractable, really nice and smooth, usable power. See nothing behind us. Let's have another little run through the gears for you. How nice did that sound? Throttle connection's really instant, like you got a little bit of throttle, twist of the throttle, and initially nothing happens, but then when it comes on, dead clean, and once it's in your hand, and you know you got the throttle in your hand, dead smooth, dead linear. Maybe do a tiny bit of work on the initial connection, but it's nothing that's going to catch you out. And it seems really strange, you know, because you can ride this bike poodling around like this in tall gears, you know, riding the torque, and it feels really happy and really compliant doing it. Or you can rev the thing on a little bit, and yeah, actually feels pretty flipping cool doing that too. So very nice. Cracker on. When you are on it like that, you know, when you do go to full throttle, you know, I was saying earlier on about how the induction noise takes over when you're just pottering around. When you do get the thing on song and you ride it like that and, you know, accelerate hard through the gears, yeah, you definitely hear that two-stroke thing, you know, the ring ding 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 I was talking about earlier on. Yeah, you definitely get it, because there's an awful lot of torque and an awful lot of power down low, which makes the bike nice and relaxing to you know, to ride and quite chilled out for, you know, for a two-stroke, in all fairness. But I'd like to try it with the, you know, the old school two-stroke map in it, and yeah, let the baby sing a little bit more. Maybe sacrifice a little bit of the torque for you know, for some more rush at the top. But you've got to remember that it is, oh sugar, I've gone the wrong way. You've got to remember that this is, after all, a 250cc V-twin that was built to be a race bike engine, detuned and made rideable, and then yeah, Chris and the boys have done a wonderful job of fueling the thing. We'll go a tiny bit further down here and then do a U-turn, and then going to take this little baby back to his daddy. I was hoping for a few more corners, to be honest, because the bike feels like that's what it's made for. It feels really keen and eager to be leant over and enjoyed and, you know, played on. But it also feels 1,000,000% happy, just pottering around and enjoying what's going on and taking in the whole symphony of the thing. So yeah, quite an impressive feat, if you ask me.
Now, one of the coolest bits of the bike for me, and for any two-stroke aficionado, and for any patriotic person full stop, is that the great thing about this bike is it's all British. It's made by a British company that was founded, you know, 3 years ago. Every component on it is British, apart from its heart. Obviously, that was Italian. Do you want to explain to us a little bit about the engine?
It is Italian, yeah. Maranello, a company called Vin's, and Vincenzo, who Vin's is named after. He was a Ferrari engineer. And he actually machined the first version of this in his spare time, I think in the evenings and night times, in the back of the Ferrari workshop, and then set up a company on his own around 7 years ago and started to develop the race version of this engine. We got in contact with him 3 years ago to try and turn it into a road engine. We've got a really good relationship. Yeah, and everything else is British, like you say, apart from the Swedish forks.
Öhlins forks.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing else I noticed, and I forgot to mention it earlier on. You've got it pre-installed with my number on it, which I'm quite impressed by. Got to say.
We pulled a few strings at Goodwood.
Did you? Yeah, to get that sorted. Talk to us about the chassis then, because there's a bit of a story behind the chassis as well, isn't there? The materials that you use for the chassis rails.
Yeah, well, we're almost worst enemy, really. You know, we're very meticulous in engineering, so we did all the stress analysis to get the weight down. We've got a very particular kind of material. We actually contacted GIA Engineering, who are the expanding guys, and found out about this material and the welding process and the jigging process. And the tubing that we needed didn't exist, so we went to Germany to cast some tube, and this is it.
That's how it turned out.
Yeah. We've had some strange requests. We've got a bikini fairing coming for somebody. We've got some handlebar risers and more comfortable bars on there. So yeah, we'll do anything.
What's next for Langen after these 100 bikes? Is that something you can answer right now, or is that something you wouldn't want to answer right now? I mean,
well, you put me on the spot,
you've done 70 odd, haven't you, already?
Yeah, there's not many left to sell. So we're starting to deliver them. It's going to take us around 12 months to deliver all of the 100 bikes, and meanwhile we're working on a couple of other projects. So the next bikes will be 4-stroke, very different genre of bike, very different type of bike, but still in the same ethos. You know, it's all about fun. It's about lightweight. So you know, we'll be ideally 2/3 of the weight of the nearest competitor for the same kind of bike. Yeah, it's all about handling. Everything we've built in this country, and in relatively small numbers, but probably a little bit more than 100.
So that is the Langen 250. I thoroughly enjoyed riding it. Chris, you've been fantastic. Thanks for letting us play on it today.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
Yeah, I look forward to hopefully riding it again in the near future, and perhaps getting out on one of your ride outs with some of the customers that have bought it.
We'll have to do it now, won't we?
Sounds good to me,
Brilliant.
mate. Thank you very much. Cheers. Right, so basically the reason for going to ride on my own bike is a bit of a strange one, really, because I've just ridden the Langen, which is the only new two-stroke in production. I want to ride it kind of back to back with one of the reference bikes, the reference old two-stroke bikes. Now really I should be being a little bit more careful, because this RGV250 of mine's been restored and completely new pistons and rings and all sorts, cranks all been done, barrels have all been done, and I've done a grand total of 128 miles on it since. So yeah, I need to be a little bit kinder to her, bless her. Absolutely love the RGV250. I remember seeing this bike in Performance Fights magazine, I think it was. Would have been it would have been around the end of 1990, I'm guessing, when they first showed the pictures of the 1991 RGV250M, which is bike is M for mum. And I remember thinking back then, oh, I've got to have one of them. I have to have one of them. And yeah, sure enough, I eventually got one. I've actually had this bike for, blimey, probably about 20 odd years, and for about probably 15 of them I never even had the thing at home, but spent a load of money having it restored and made to look nice. Never really used it since, as you can see from the fact that it's done 130 miles. But after riding the Langen just a minute ago, to jump on this back to back, the first thing you notice is a massive lack of induction noise on the Suzuki compared to the Langen. And the other thing you notice is, I don't know if you recall, but I said about the Langen is a little bike, a 250cc bike, the same as the RGV that we're on now, but it feels really roomy and really big. The RGV250 feels like little two-strokes always did, you know, really compact. You know, your knees feel like they're up around your ear holes, and yeah, quite racy. It's that Schwantz bike that you got to see me start earlier on. This was basically the closest thing road-wise to one of those RGV500s. Yes, you could argue that there was an RG500, but that was, you know, a bike from the sort of late 80s. I love the noise of this bike. This bike's got the Arrow exhausts on it, and they sound absolutely amazing. I love when you get the thing on song. It just sounds absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely perfect. Just how a little two-stroke should sound. Make our way back, just go through the gears quickly. Lovely little rush of two-stroke power there. We won't be doing that too much, just because, like I said, you know, the thing needs running in, but stretching its legs won't hurt it, will it? I remember I had one of these the first time around when I was about 17 or 18 years old, maybe. Actually, I might have been older than that. I might have been 19. And I had it on the road, believe it or not, for literally 5 days. And during those 5 days, I basically rode the thing non-stop and ended up blowing it to smithereens. Now, my racing career started just after that, and what I planned to do
was to rebuild the RGV250. I had an N at the time, so the year on from this one. And I planned to fully rebuild it, but turn it into a race bike. But when I realised just how much money that was going to cost, I thought, oh dear, this wasn't part of the plan. And at a motorbike shop that I used to work at, we had a guy that had a ZXR 400, which was already a race bike. It had been ridden at national level and stuff like that. So I ended up rebuilding the RGV, putting it back on the road, and doing a part exchange with the guy to take my RGV road bike for his ZXR race bike. And that's how my career started.
So then, the most important part of the day, my verdict. Well, my verdict is this. The Langen is a £30,000 motorcycle, which sounds like a lot of money. The RGV250 is mine. The Langen definitely isn't. However, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of them made, and there's going to be 100 of these. And not only is there going to be 100 of them, but your one of your 100 can be as specific or as tailored to you as you want it. What more can you ask for in this day and age? From an all-British company with an Italian engine, it's almost like you own the bike and they own the bike at the same time. Everybody wants you to be happy at Langen with the motorcycle that you end up buying, which is a fantastic thing. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. I'm Shakey Byrne. This was Byrne Out episode 4 on the Late Break Show, proudly supported by EBC Brakes. And talking of supported, if you're not already, get on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And if you've done that already, get onto Patreon, become a Patreon member to get exclusive access to some footage that others won't get to see. And if that's not enough, get onto the website and buy some of this. Johnny's paid me a fortune to wear this t-shirt today, just so that I can try and promote our merchandise. Get on, get some bought. We'll catch up with you soon in Byrne Out episode 5.